Hi everyone. So in today's video, I'm going to be talking about the energetic reason why we hold on to things, to clutter. And this video is going to be especially good for those of you who maybe have some difficulty letting go of items in your life. So let's go ahead and dive in. So I want to begin by talking about why this topic came about for me. And my husband and I just bought a house, and the house was originally built in 1977. And the owner that we bought it from, he had been living there since I think about 1986. Now, this gentleman was born in the 40s, so, think of a lifetime of accumulation of stuff. Now, when I first met him, the house had a lot of stuff in it. He cleared quite a bit of it out, but part of the deal with the sale was that we were to take care of the rest of the stuff in the house. So we had the lovely job, or have the lovely job, because we're still working on it at the time of this video, of going through everything and, getting rid of stuff that needed to just be thrown out, rehoming things that could maybe find a new home, and seeing what else is usable for us, for the property. And we just this past week worked on clearing out the attic. Now, I'll show you a little picture of just the magazines alone up there. There was piles and piles of old magazines. And as I was sort of taking them down from the attic, the oldest one that I saw, and it might not have been the oldest one, but it's the one that I saw as I was sort of, throwing them down the attic hole, was 1959. So that just kind of tells you how much stuff was, being held on to and just being carried with them from place to place over the years. And we found a lot of other stuff. I found a couple of dresses that to me dated to probably like 1930s, maybe early 1940s, and definitely some old shoes and old letters that were dated from the 1940s as well. So we're talking a lot of stuff, and I'll share a few pictures here of everything that we've sort of accumulated as we've brought it down from the attic. And there's other parts of the house, the main floors and the basement as well, that have things too. Now, as much as I love the mystery of the sort of treasure hunt, right? It's very exciting. In fact, this dress that I'm wearing today was an attic find. So, I imagine this dress was probably maybe 1970s, early 1980s, that sort of time frame. This got me really thinking about our relationship to stuff. Why do we hold on to so much stuff? And why is it so hard to let it go? And it also got me sort of thinking about my own life. Here I am clearing out somebody else's stuff, but certainly there's an opportunity for lessons and reflection within my own life, right? Another reason we might perhaps hang on to stuff is we tell ourselves we might use it one day. I know that's like a big thing with me, and I do a lot of like sewing or crafting, that sort of thing. And I'm always like, well, I could maybe use that at some point in time. I might need that object. And my husband does the same thing in his garage. I might need this one bolt or screw one day. And maybe you do, I don't know. But it's this sort of fear of not having enough or not having something. But ultimately, both of these things are, the energy, the energetic sort of signature of those, I guess you could say, is a sort of fear-based energy, right? And especially with these emotions that we aren't really tapping into, and we're hanging on to this stuff for whatever the reason is for you, right? Then it can sort of create these blockages in us, right? The energy is not going to be flowing in us how it's not going to be flowing in us as easily as if we let go and process and make space. We can do this with like a small area in our home and sort of reflect and look on that. As I'm sitting here talking to you, I'm also staring at the other end of the room where I have a cabinet. And in that cabinet over the years, I've kept a lot of Chinese herbal medicines. Back when I actually studied Chinese herbal medicine and acupuncture back in the day, and a lot of those products that I had, I kept in this cabinet. And I think it might have been just last year, I went through and was like, why am I holding on to these things? I was holding on because I might need them one day, but realistically, they're not good anymore. All right, they're way past their expiration. But it was this sort of fear of not having, right? This fear of this moment might come up where I need this, and that I had to deal with, that I had to process, right? And so I've since let a lot of those go, filling it with new things that are more of a match energetically with who I am now and what I enjoy doing, right? So letting the old out to make room for the new. And when we have old, unprocessed, heavy emotions, that's essentially what we're doing, right? Those are being reflected in the sort of clutter that we've accumulated, the things that we've accumulated. It's an external reflection of our internal space, right? So we want to sort of dive in internally to create space from there and then decide, right? Then we can decide if we want to keep something or if we're ready to let it go. And it's not going to be a fear-based decision. It's going to be based in, a good relationship to who we are, right? And what we value. Now, if you're sitting here thinking, well, that's not me, then I invite you to sort of think about this a little bit more deeply, because a lot of times these things aren't very overt, right? They're not very in our face all the time. And when we sort of say, well, that's a them problem, not a me problem, right? We might be foregoing an opportunity to really connect with ourselves at a deeper level. We might not have really in your face sort of clutter, but it can maybe be like just the drawer in your kitchen, right? There's always an opportunity to go deeper, to heal more deeply, to connect more deeply. And so just take a moment to see maybe where this can be reflected in your life as well, right? To bring some more awareness to yourself and what's going on within you. Because the truth is that we all have objects in our home, and we all certainly have at least one object that has an emotional attachment for us that we can, use as a partner on our healing path to bring deeper awareness within us, right? Just by connecting with that object. So, I invite you to take a moment to just pick an object in your house that has a sort of emotional charge for you and sit with it. Just sit with it for a little bit and ask yourself what emotion kind of comes up with this. And maybe, when I think about letting this object go, what gets stirred up inside me? And see what kind of comes to the surface. Sometimes I find we got to just create the space for the invitation for these things to sort of dredge up a little bit. I was, when I was sort of prepping for this video, I was connecting in with, I have a couple boxes of baby clothes up in my storage area. And I was sort of connecting in with that because I've been kind of carrying them around and keeping them in boxes. I mean, they're literally just sitting up in boxes in the storage part of my house. And I was reflecting on what is kind of stirring up for me with that. And, for me, it's about the memory of when I was a mother, when I first became a mother and taking care of my children and spending that time with them. And what I was also surprised to find come up was a little bit of regret and a little bit of anger towards myself because, in those days I wasn't really walking a healing path at that time very seriously at all. And I had a lot of sort of unprocessed emotions within me and things I just was like not wanting to look at or deal with that had been sort of accumulating for a very long time. Speaking of accumulation, right? That's what we do, is we can accumulate things over the years and we store them away within us. And that's what I did. And when I was sort of connecting with these baby clothes, those emotions were coming up, and I realized that there was a part of me that wasn't really fully present as a parent, right? I wasn't fully immersed in that and really I mean, it was a happy time in my life, but there's a part of me that feels like had I been doing my healing sooner, I could have been more present in that moment and really enjoyed it to the fullest, right? It was almost like I spent a lot of time sort of feeling stressed and overwhelmed and waiting for that next moment to get easier instead of really sinking into the present, right? And so these baby clothes were sort of bringing that up within me. And so sitting with that and feeling that and allowing myself to forgive myself and let it go, right? And create space. And so now when I think about releasing these baby clothes, it brings me joy to think that maybe somebody else can get use out of them and create happy memories with their own child, right? Instead of just sitting in my attic, just collecting dust or, or whatever. So we let go to make space for the new, right? I let go of regret and shame and anger so that I can make space for love, right? And make the decision to either keep or let it go from a place of love. And so that's what I'm kind of encouraging you to do with your own objects. And as we sort of find freedom from finally letting go of these emotions that we've been holding on to, then we can create space in our heart and space in our lives, right? That's going to start to extend out into our external world. So this clearing out is about honoring each emotion as it wants to come up for us, right? And we honor each emotion one at a time, one feeling at a time. And, like I always say, many small steps lead to great change in our life. So keep going, keep healing, and don't be afraid to go within. I just want to take a moment to say thank you for being here with me today. And if you enjoyed the content, then feel free to give a like and subscribe to help support my channel. I really appreciate it. If you want to follow along with more of my content, you can sign up for my monthly newsletter. I share a little bit more about my own personal healing path through that, as well as on my blog on my website, thespiritwithin.com. You can also find free resources over on my website, as well as healing services if you want some one-to-one support on your path. Thanks again for being here, and till we meet again. Bye, guys.